Hello everybody, and welcome to day 27 of 28 days to master level chess tactics. We are on the first day out of 2 days covering deflection, and in this position it's white to move, and you can pause the video now and we'll get into it. Alright, so the main idea of deflection is basically noticing a weakness in your opponent's position and then literally trying to deflect or draw away a piece that defends that weakness. Alright, so in this position, let's evaluate the material. It looks like it's otherwise equal. White does have two bishops for the minor pieces, but what you should notice first off is this weak back rank of black. And it looks like he has a lot of pieces defending it, namely the rook, the queen, and I guess this bishop is sitting in the corner, but it's otherwise pretty active. There's maybe a discovery with this knight on the rook. The rooks are in contact, but basically the queen can come in somehow to g5, and this is the deflection that I'm talking about right here. Now the queen is protecting the rook, and the queen to g5, it is undefended and the queen can take, but the queen is basically threatening queen takes g7 checkmate, and there's no way to deal with these two threats. So you can see even in a deflection, the main idea of chess tactics is normally a double threat or a double attack because you're making two threats at once that the opponent can't deal with, and in this case there's number one, the back rank threat, and number two, the queen takes g7 threat. So if the rook takes, well then you'll just take here, and then you'll get a checkmate on the next move. And if the queen takes, then you'll get checkmate here. All right, so the next question is, why not just play here? So other than the two moves of queen takes g5, which loses, and rook takes e4, basically the only defense is g6. Now, this is where things can get a little complicated in terms of applying tactics again. All right, so if queen to h6, then the queen can't come here on f6 to defend it because that leaves the rook undefended and he gets checkmated. And so you'd have to calculate takes here, which is another only move. And then you have to see one final move with rook to g4 check. And now it's going to be checkmate next move. If he doesn't take, another forced move. And then you get a very common pattern here with bishop takes over discovery and then check and mate. A very common pattern that you should definitely know with the bishop and the queen. All right, so let's go back to the beginning of this position. All right, so rook comes out, queen to g5. This leads to a deflection, and there's two main ideas that you should calculate. And I would say if you calculate these ideas, you're getting your queen into the attack. And with g6, I guess you could calculate it further from there, but actually it's a series of forced moves, forced only moves, that would lead to a win. All right, let's move on to the second position. In this position, it is white to move, and you can pause the video now. All right, this position is actually a game that Mikhail Chigorin played in 1903 as white, and he was badly losing at one point, but his opponent, you can see, moved the queen to g6, which otherwise it would have been somewhat equal or a slight advantage for black. But this leads to a deflection tactic by white, and as you can see, the general idea is that black has a weak back rank, and so that leads to some threats. Material is otherwise equal, with white having a minor piece for a rook plus two pawns, but this weak back rank is the main feature, and that leads to check here. A fork on the king and the queen, so black has to respond. If he takes here with the rook, or if he takes here with the rook, I guess you should look at first, then you can actually take it, and now he's going to have problems with his weak back rank. If he takes, then you get a checkmate, and it's unclear how exactly to defend this rook because he's going to bring the rook in here as well. And if the rook takes here, then which is actually what happened in the game. You get check, back, and then if you want to try to calculate the final move, all right, queen to f8 check, rook takes, and then rook takes with the bishop supporting that final rook checkmate. A very nice deflection of the weak back rank. All right, so let's make some conclusions here. All right, so the main idea of deflection is you notice a weakness in your opponent's camp and you look for ways to draw defenders away from that weakness, or you try to create a complicated situation where he can't deal with two threats at the same time. All right, hopefully these two positions weren't too complicated for a first day, but we only have one more day in 28 days to master level chess tactics, and I'll see you tomorrow with the final summary for deflection. Thanks for watching. Don't fret if you got the solution wrong. There will be another time.